Dimitri lived in a small, rural town in Alaska. He had been born in the town and lived his whole life there, having a very happy childhood. Often, his mother and father would take the young boy out into the surrounding forest where they would walk for hours on end. One of Dimitri's favorite things to do when he was out with his parents, though, was to track down the elusive wolves. The young boy would spend hours following the wild canine's tracks just to catch a glimpse of the majestic creatures. For some reason, Dimitri thought that they were one of the most beautiful animals he had ever seen. As the boy got older, he would spend less time out in the woods with his parents, but he never lost his love for the forest. Every night, he would listen to the wolves howling to the moon and smile as he remembered all of the adventures that he had had in the woods. Eventually, when he was old enough, Dimitri decided to go off to college so that he could get a well-paying job. It was while he was there that he met Elsie, a young woman who was studying in the same college as him. The two instantly felt attracted to each other, and it wasn't long before they began to date. After finishing college, the two young adults moved back to Dimitri's hometown. Not long after moving back, Elsie and Dimitri got married and quickly had two adorable sons called Jack and Thomas. One of the activities that Dimitri loved to do with his sons was to take them for walks in the forests, as his parents had done with him. One winter day, Dimitri, Jack, now 12, and Thomas, 9, were exploring the snowy woods, marveling at the pure white snow, when they heard a strange sound. It sounded like a howl, but the animal who was making it was clearly in pain. Dimitri told his sons to stay behind him as they all crept closer to the noise. As they emerged from the trees and into a small clearing, the three boys suddenly stopped. There in the middle of the clearing was a young wolf. It looked like it was only just leaving adolescence, but what Dimitri noticed above everything else was that its poor paw looked stuck in a hunter's trap. The animal was making pain noises, which broke Dimitri's heart. He edged closer to the animal, but stopped when it began to growl at him. The man quietly talked to the wolf and crept closer. Finally, he was close enough to stroke the creature's fur whilst reassuring it that he simply wanted to help it. The wolf stopped growling and began to lick Dimitri's hand, apparently sensing that the man didn't want to harm him. The canine, having calmed down, allowed Dimitri to look at the trap. Thankfully, it looked to be a simple trap that clamped shut when stepped on, but there was clear damage to the animal, and Dimitri was worried that the wolf might have a broken paw. Telling his sons to stand back, Dimitri then did something quite dangerous. He opened the trap and released the wolf's foot. However, once the creature was free, it didn't immediately run away like the man thought it would. Instead, the wolf continued to lie in that spot, whining pitifully. Dimitri began to grow very concerned, knowing that he couldn't leave the young wolf to fend for itself while it was injured. The kind-hearted man did the only thing that he could think of. He picked the wolf up. Thomas and Jack were astounded at what their father was doing. Didn't he know that the creature could kill him with a simple snap of its jaws? Despite the danger, though, Dimitri was determined to help it. He told his sons that they all needed to head back home so that he could get the wolf to a vet. Amazingly, the wolf stayed fairly still in Dimitri's grip as the man began the trek back home. After hours of walking, Dimitri, Jack, Thomas, and the wolf finally emerged from the forest. Dimitri made sure that his sons made it back home safely before he quickly took off to the nearest vet. Heaving with the effort of carrying the heavy animal for so long, Dimitri was thankful when he could finally place it down in the vet's checkup room. Amazed by the animal that had just entered his clinic, the vet was a bit weary of checking the wolf over. After all, they were known to be dangerous predators, but Dimitri insisted the vet look at the wolf's paw to make sure that it was all right. The vet agreed and carefully assessed the paw. The entire time, Dimitri spoke soft and kind words to the wolf, calming it down and letting it know that it would be all right. Finally, the vet told Dimitri that the wolf's paw was bruised but not broken and that it could be released back into the wild. "But why was it so lethargic when I set it free?" the worried man asked. The vet told Dimitri that the animal had likely been stuck in the trap for a couple of days and that it was severely dehydrated and hungry. With a bit of food and water, it should be fine to go back out into the woods. Dimitri thanked the vet and told him that he would look after the wolf for the night. Once back home, the nice man left the wolf in his garage along with some food and water. Even though the creature had been kind to him so far, he still knew that it could hurt him or his family at any given time. Upon seeing their father, Jack and Thomas asked him if the wolf was okay. Dimitri smiled and told them that it would be fine after some rest. Before heading to bed, the two young boys peeked their heads in the garage to take a quick look at the wolf and were amazed at how beautiful it was. The next day, the wolf was feeling better, and Dimitri took that as a good sign that it would be fine in the forest. The man and his two sons opened the garage and watched from a safe distance as the canine made its way out cautiously. Before disappearing through the tree line, though, the wolf turned around, as if to thank Dimitri for his help. Over the next few days, the female wolf could be seen near Dimitri's home, just inside the forest. It was as if it didn't want to leave just yet, but Dimitri didn't know why. One day, the wolf wasn't there, which caused Jack and Thomas to worry. With their father at work, they knew that they shouldn't enter the woods alone, but they were worried that something had happened to the wolf. So the two young boys ventured into the forest by themselves. After walking for a while, Jack and Thomas realized that there was no sign of the wolf. But worse than that, when they turned around to go home, the two boys discovered that they didn't know the way back. Scared of being stuck in the cold forest in the middle of winter, the boys wandered around trying to find their way back home. But as the sun got lower in the sky and night began to close in, it didn't look too good for the young boys. Scared, Jack and Thomas sat down on a log and huddled together for extra warmth. Just as they were about to give up hope of returning home, Jack noticed two bright eyes staring at him from the trees. He froze. What was looking at him? Was it dangerous? What should he do? All of these questions raced through the young boy's head. But just then the eyes came closer, and Jack was able to make out the young form of the female wolf who Dimitri had saved. Jack gently called the animal closer and let it sniff his hand. Once it knew for sure who the boys were, the wolf's tail began to wag slightly. It licked Jack's hand before gently nudging him and Thomas. Once the wolf had the boys' attention, it began to walk back through the trees, stopping every now and then to make sure that the two children were following it. After roughly 30 minutes, Jack and Thomas could see a light, as well as hear their mother and father calling for them. Happy to be home, the two boys raced into their parents' relieved arms. After hugging his sons, Dimitri looked up at the tree line to see the female wolf watching the family reunion. The man was amazed by what had happened. The wolf had saved his sons by leading them back home. Softly, Dimitri thanked the wolf, who seemed to nod at him before disappearing into the forest again. Somehow, Dimitri knew that they wouldn't see the young wolf again, but he would never forget the amazing thing that it had done for him and his family.